have the athletic subcommittee take a definite position on this so that we can get that information out to student learners.
Pretty quickly, right.
Okay, let me talk a little bit about the staffing and programs that will be in place next year. I know there continue to be questions about what are we going to do next year. So let me say again that with this budget, we are restoring all of our 5 schools, elementary, middle, and high school, to 5 full days. So there will not be, with the approval of the school of the calendar that was approved at the last meeting, there will be early release days, but more in the traditional Wednesday early release, and actually there will only be 6 of them, whereas in the past there have been 8 or 10. And so that calendar will be released actually in the coming week. And there will be release days for the elementary conferences and the middle school conferences and for high school exams. But we're following the traditional calendar. Schools will be in session for 5 full days, including 5 full days for kindergarten, and all of the other students grades 1 through 12. I've made it very clear to the middle school principal as well as to the new incoming middle school principal, Mr. Farche, that it is my expectation that students in the middle school will not be in study halls. They are to be actively engaged in learning. So, what are we restoring? First of all, in this budget, the #1 priority was to address unmet needs that have been plaguing our schools for several years. This is in the area of reading literacy and in special education. So at the elementary level, we will be hiring the equivalent of 4.5 teachers, basically 1 per school in special education, and the equivalent of an additional half-time reading literacy teacher in each of the elementary schools. So each of the elementary schools will be able to hire the equivalent of 1.5 additional teachers to address unmet needs in reading literacy and in special education. At the high school, we are planning to hire 3 core academic teachers. It appears based on need that this would be in science, most likely in the chemistry physics area, mathematics, and English. And this is to deal with class size and electives. Also in priority 1, there is funding to hire a certified English language learner teacher, ELL teacher. This is required. We have dealt with this with a tutor. We need to have a certified teacher in order to be compliant. And in fact, Christine D'Angelo and I met Friday afternoon on an exit interview. And I think the committee is aware that we, as required by law, participated in a compliance review, and that it looked at special education, civil rights, and ELL. And it was noted that we are not in compliance right now with ELL. So this will allow us to move into compliance.
Just curious, not that I would want to test the law, but what would happen if over the years we continue to ignore the ELL issue? I mean, would we be put on some sort of probation? Would we? What could happen to a school district?
Well, students who come in who do not have English as a primary language are required under the law to achieve a certain level of proficiency. They're required to take eventually the MCAS exam. And so if we were not providing those services and students were not successful, then there could be the compliance issue of, it was the school district's fault for not providing the appropriate services. And so that's a discriminatory practice. So you don't want to put yourself in that position.
Dave, I don't have my pyramid chart, but were we talking 4 positions at the high school?
No, the fourth position would have been under the overall.
Oh, level 3,
Yeah,
okay, all
level
right,
three.
gotcha.
So, under the budget, 4.5, addressing elementary reading literacy special ed, and 3 classroom teachers at the high school in science, math, and English, plus the ELL. That is 7.5.
Okay, there it is.
Altogether. Now, the second priority, which is also covered under this budget, will restore the programs that were cut last June in music, art, physical education at the elementary and middle school level, and we are replacing the cultures program in the middle school with health. With a full-time certified teacher. So we are actually in the process of hiring physical education health teachers, and we are going to make sure that a teacher who is certified in physical education is also certified in health to get that flexibility. So in terms of music at the elementary level and art and physical education, we're going to restore the twice-a-week music class, the twice-a-week physical education class, and the once-a-week art program. This year, we went to art every other week. That was simply a reaction to trying to, because of less money. But you can see the problem. If you're scheduling an art class every other week, there's a holiday, there's a snow day, well, that's rare, but you change the schedule, that there's a problem, that students will be out of sync, and you can go a month and not have any art. So we think it's critical that we restore that. In the middle school, music, art, technology, and now health we're part of that rotation of classes that students took, and so we're putting that rotation back. Now, I will say that the way we put things back and the way the schedule actually is built in the middle school may look a little different than what we had before. Because again, with my commitment that we're not going to have students unengaged, uninvolved in some kind of structured learning. I think it's critical. So we're looking at how the middle school schedule is actually structured. In the instrumental music program, the choral program, we saw a fine example of that Friday night where we had an a cappella group come. And it's imperative that we don't continue with what we've done this past year. So we're looking at ways of how to rebuild. We will be able to rebuild the chorus program, an instrumental music program. It may not take exactly the same shape, but we're hiring staff to put it back in. Mr. Tatro, who is the elementary music, he works with me and with Pam Bodwin in looking at music programs. He reported that 2 years ago we had over 125 students who were taking in the 4th and 5th grade a band instrument, a lesson. This year we have done this after school. It's a fee-based program. We have reduced that number to under 35.
Wow.
That's a dramatic drop-off. We need to get that program back.
That, at that rate, you don't basically have a high school band because,
If we don't get it back.
right, because by the time those kids go through the system,
Yeah.
You're not enriching the kids' lives.
Absolutely.
And not nurturing that piece of their
right,
life.
absolutely.
So we're making every effort. Certainly, priority 2 allows us to rehire the staff. We may make some decisions in the middle school about what the music program instruction looks like, that perhaps if students are in band and chorus, they may not be taking instructional music. So we may be looking at ways to somehow facilitate that. We're also looking at ways to, with physical education in the elementary school, not to replace the actual fitness component, but to build in perhaps in the 5th grade some level of a health, kind of a topical based health program, but definitely grades 6, 7, and 8. I've also said to Mr. Hodges and to Pam Bodwin that I'm not sure how budget-wise we're gonna be able to accommodate this, but we feel strongly that it is important that 6th graders have increased literacy instruction. This year, all 6th graders are taking reading twice a week, and we're looking to make that a full course and elevate it to the same status as mathematics and science and so forth. So we also would like to expand the world language. Right now, our 7th graders take foreign language twice a week in the 7th grade, and they take it, I think, 4 times a week in the 8th grade, and the combination of those two those 2 years is equivalent to 1 year. We know 2 years ago we had a major problem with that by scaling it back, and we're still seeing that group of students is now in the high school, and we can see that we've had to retailor and restructure the 2nd level language. But what I'm saying about the middle school is that we are exploring ways to make the 8th grade class an equivalent full class, and to find ways to offer 6th graders some kind of an exploratory program. I'm not sure how, or even if that can happen. I just want the committee to be aware that it's not in the budget, but we're looking very carefully. As you know, all teachers in the middle school will be going from 4 to 5 teaching assignments, and we're seeing how that impacts on class size. Do we have any level of savings that we can transfer into perhaps world language and into reading in the 6th grade?
I think the language, I think it was last week, the Globe Northwest Weekly had a section had a story about Chinese and all the surrounding communities that are either already teaching it or pushing to teach it, and maybe it's a dream, but I would love to see us sometime in the next 2 or 3 years to offer that program. I mean, if we ignore what's going on in the world, it might be a dream, but good one.
I think we had that elementary pilot program a couple of years ago, gave us a report that said, you should start at the elementary level
Right.
and introduce
All
them.
languages, right.
So, maybe we could put that idea out there someday.
So,
we should have that as 10 budget.
Yes.
well, it's
Yes,
in
2010,
budget,
right.
but we're looking for ways, if there's a way to make some choices.
Yes,
for
introductory
this year.
concept.
So, I hope that gets reported. I will be sending out a newsletter to parents in the next week or so, describing what the schedule will look like, some of the programs that we're putting back. The parents need to rest assured that we're returning to 5 full days, and the commitment is that students will be actively engaged with, no study halls in the middle school.
With the override failing, however, that does mean that libraries and